Yes, we go back to Roswell, and Jen, I would love you to comment on this. That was 76 years ago. So whoever started the Roswell cover-up and before is no longer around. And this is a legacy program.
Right?
So you think it's not, I feel it's not going to unfold that easy. It's not like, oh yeah, they said something. No, I see, if I remote you, it a huge roadblock. And this is a major moment of confrontation that the Congress is going to have with the military. This is like a soft going coup that's been going on for 76 years, where the military has run away. This is what Eisenhower said about the military industrial complex. And they're not going to give up their secrets so easily. And this is when I had dinner with Chris Mellon in Barcelona with Linda. He said, we need strong leadership that's going to make heads roll. And we are not getting that. We are not getting that at all. We're bowing down to, well, to generals and military. They, like Burchett said, but he's sort of helpless to do anything. They are working for us. Who's the commander-in-chief? That commander-in-chief, according to the Constitution, is the head of the military. This is leading to a confrontation and a huge constitutional crisis. And it sort of reminds me of ancient Rome, where the Senate caved into the emperors that just took over and got rid of democracy. I mean, we are at that critical moment of repeating history. Are we going to cave into the military, or are we going to stand up to the people's leadership and say, we want you guys to come forward and talk about who you sold these secrets to private industry? And Rush has that information. I think if he could break his NDA, I'm not telling he should, but I think he should, but, you know, and be protected by the people, then we'll get closer to transparency we've been waiting for. But there's a huge battle that's just beginning here for truth.
Yeah, and I think there's a lot of information, as you say, that's coming out about the technology that's talked about in Accidental Truth and more. But the thing is that this conversation can be about war, and it can be about money, or it can be about a renaissance that we're about to experience, a cultural renaissance where we're going to be learning about new technologies. We're going to be learning about fashion. We're going to be learning about healing. We're going to be learning about spacecrafts. We're going to be learning about dimensions. We're going to be learning. So, of course, there's going to be this period where it's like, I can't believe you guys did this. Where did all the money go? Where did all of this, that, whatever? But that's really not the conversation, right? The conversation is, now what? And where are they? And let's talk to them, and let's invite them to dinner, really. You know what I mean? Like, let's like, how do we engage with this? Because the reason why they haven't said anything for decades and decades is because they realized they made a mistake. It's like a kid hiding something under the bed because it got horrific.
I don't think what happened was there's kickback going on. It's not just, oh, we made a mistake. We didn't. No, it's so much, I feel, deeper than that.
It is.
Oh, how do we get ourselves out of the light? No,
it is. It's the energy. It's the, you know, it's like we could have had free energy. We could have done all this stuff. So yeah, I'm not trying to take it lightly, because it's not. But I also don't want this to turn into such a witch hunt and a money thing and a war thing and a like whatever, that we miss the excitement about what this actually means.
Yeah, I agree. There's those two sides. Jen, how do we get to truth according to you?
Well, I think our community is so important, because we can bridge the gap between a lot of different things. Whereas with these whistleblowers, with the official channels, they can only go based off of documents, these facts that have already been proven. But in the UFO community and spirituality communities, we have a much broader range of what we can talk about and bring forward. So like, you know, what you were saying, Zenka, with the app, with creating the music and crop circles with, you know, non-physical beings, stuff like that is really where we can take the narrative into a direction beyond what is able to happen in these hearings. These people, when they're under oath, they're only allowed to talk about what they know. They're not allowed to speculate. They're not, because then it's all hearsay, So
Yep.
with us, it's so important, people like us leading the conversation in a positive way, and I know that there's different people, covering this stuff, but to really focus it back to, this is a paradigm shift. And like you said, this is a renaissance for us. And really incorporating the other aspects, like, the starseed conversation, something that can't be talked about in Congress, how not only are these people having, a lot of these people, we've heard rumors about people like Chris Mellon and stuff having ET experience. And a lot of these people have said to people in this community that they have ET experiences. But what they can't talk about is their soul, that their soul has a mission on this earth to be a part of disclosure, or their soul might be a family member of the beings that are on these craft. So I think, that's where we can expand the conversation, and that part of the conversation is not for everybody, and that's okay. But the people that are here on earth for this purpose, it's going to resonate with them. So we keep broadening it, and, not everybody likes that when we talk about, the facts, and then we bring it to like, okay, well, this is a soul mission for these people. These people have a purpose to bring this forward. But that information will reach the right people and activate something in them. And we already know, from the spiritual side, these activations in yourself ripple out to the people around you. So when you have a spiritual awakening, it ripples out to your community, to your family, to other people in your life. So that's something that I think we all play a part in this, that is beyond what could be done through the official channels, that I think is really positive and could lead us towards
Amen.
And we're also why they got here. The pressure from the people is why we're at this hearing today. Like, whatever we did, this like collective need to know. And that's why, here in America, we can put pressure. We can watch TikTok. We can question things. It's like we can do that. So now let's leverage our, we have a lot of things that bad about the US government. Like, I'm not on board with all the military stuff we're doing. But the thing, we need to really exercise our voices now. And that's why we're here right now, is because people have had enough of it.
Right.
Yeah, and sorry, not to go too off topic, but I had some people in the comment section in TikTok that are just wondering a little more about like the stuff we're doing with ETs and like just connecting with the music and stuff like that. If you want to share just a little bit.
Yeah, Zenka, yes. And the whole LightNet platform, because
the whole
might like to know about that.
Yeah, we just got some interested parties.
Oh, okay, great. Yeah. So if you go to lightnet.org, you can see what we do. So we realized that it was one thing to talk about ETs in a conference. Like, oh, I saw an ET. Well, I didn't, you know what I mean? We wanted to give people a firsthand experience, because that's the only way you can understand something so wild, right? And so whether you want to see a craft or whether you want a remote view with Alan, that's available. LightNet, it's hands-on, it's citizen science. We're also building an entire database of contact experiences. And our research is saying that if you actively call in a ship, then you're going to have a positive experience. That's what the data shows us. You know what I mean? So this is a really good and safe way to go about it, because you've got a bunch of people who've done it before that are loving and kind and in that way. So on September 28th or 21st, we are starting our second big experiment where 250 people are going to get together for 4 nights in a row, 4 hours at a time. And we're going to be calling in ships and we're going to be having experiences. So this is open to you guys. There's scholarships, there's discounts if you're a student or a senior, there's, regular price. It's available to you guys to have this experience, and we're going to document everything. And we're going to, go over 9 different tools that you can use to do it. So there are tools, there are methodologies, and it's really fun to do it with a bunch of people.
Yeah, I just
and then
want
we'll
to
be launching other teams. Yeah.
No, I just want to explain that Zenka has laid out different modes of contact, Jen, and different ways people are making contact on their own through what course I'm teaching with remote viewing, through channeling, through automatic writing, through looking at crop circles, through what other means are they doing? Dreams. So it's a university she's created with LightNet of consciousness and contact. And because we can't wait for the government to say, guess what, we're being visited. We are at the forefront of conscious reaching out. And like you are, Jen, you're helping an incredible community of people wake up with her passion, your passion. You should know her TikTok, Zenka, her passion to communicate and go through all the details and look at it in a very intelligent way. We need not just the spirituality, but we need the intelligence to present this to people who are maybe listening now or all over the news station. What? Really? Are there really craft here? Do we really? I mean, there was some gems here, but you know, there's such a spectrum of level of awakening. It's like people say, like, no, there can't be. It's like I still think this is a science fiction movie we're in. Suddenly the government, and we're not. This is a reality that we have yet to integrate on a social level. So even though it's up to us to come forward and share our experiences, the consensus reality is maybe 100 or 200 years behind that fact. So we are pushing against that. And this is also why those people behind closed doors don't want the truth out, because they want to hold reality in place as they know it so they can manipulate consciousness and people to listen to what they say is true. It's like the church. It's like, let's put Galileo in jail because he's proving that the earth, Copernicus said it, but Galileo proved it. And let's just lock those guys away and say, no, don't look at that. So, you know, it's sad about humanity, but we are at the threshold of a really new time, a really new paradigm. So any comment about that, Jen, about you?
And, you know, this has been prophesized for so long. You know, we know that this time is coming. We know that this time is coming. And we also know that, you know, as more information becomes available, it expands our awareness completely. So, you know, we have to remember that, you know, even though people in this community, we feel like this is a slow drip, there's a huge portion of humanity that this is a big leap for them. And this is really out of the box. And we are one human collective. So, you know, we can only go as fast as we can go. And that's one of the things too. And of course, the criticism is valid towards the cover up, towards the government, towards all of that. But from people who've had actual physical contact with ETs, a lot of them say that regardless of how much you love the idea, you think ETs are cool, you want to meet one, being in the physical presence of one triggers your amygdala in your brain to say, danger, 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 I'm going to die. So even the biggest ET enthusiast, even someone who telepathically communicates with them, says that when they've had physical contact, your body collapses. Mm-hmm. You probably, you go to the bathroom on yourself. Like, this is a reaction because we are still in human bodies. So, things can only go as fast as they can go. Right. And there is some research that shows that if it was this kind of big event, that it would actually have catastrophic consequences and possibly a quantum explosion that could permanently ruin our reality.
Well, I have a lot to say about that because I'm actually writing about the experience of contact and how it is traumatic. But the more people talk about that, the less their reality will be shifted. But there's also another element that creates the fear, is that the vibrational differences between us and these beings is so drastic that it's sort of like trying to get a Wi-Fi on an AM radio. We're not at the frequency equivalent. So that greater energy coming off these beings are shocking. So what we have to do in our own homework is raise our vibrational frequency to be a match for the other, And that is really where the long revolution's all about. This is really what we have to come to as far as that understanding ourselves as multidimensional beings. And as long as we're dumbed down to think that we're not, we will not be able to match the frequencies of these beings. But if we can raise ourselves up by positive thinking, love, transformation, you will know that nothing these beings are, can do, can impact us on a negative level, because we will meet them on an even playing field. That's what I call for as the destiny of humanity. So up until now, it has been traumatic, at least by the grays. But I don't think it's intentional. It's just, or maybe it is, it's just a matter of frequency. And this is what the knowledge bringing forth here has to change. Yeah, Coffee, you look like you're smiling about this. What do you say?
Yeah. I really liked what you said, and I wanted to kind of further it. I liked also what Bashar said. And when he said, he was like, why we don't have really physical contact at this point is definitely the frequency. And he explained it like two gears, one really fast and one slower, and you put them together and they just strip each other, you know, but also just like the light, all the light they emit from their frequency immediately brings out all of your shadows. So if you're not like integrated, all the, you know, fear and self-doubt and all that kind of stuff, it just immediately comes to the surface. You go into psychosis, and then yeah, you're not having a good time. So absolutely everything about what you just said.
Yeah. Well,
So in Majestic by Whitley Strieber, he actually, he says it so poetically because he's such an incredible writer. But what he says actually in one of the first chapters is that when they first looked at these beings, they were faced with their own demons, which is exactly what you just said, is that when we interact with them, it actually reflects something back about ourselves. And they say that, you know, those people who decided to make this a cover up, and Majestic, for those who don't know, is about Rodwell, and it was based off of actual documents that were given to Whitley privately. And, you know, those people were reflected back with their own demons by looking at these beings, and they projected themselves onto them. So because they saw their own demons of humans are still dangerous, they were like, oh, okay, these beings are dangerous and we need to hide this information. And it was really the fear of a few men who made this decision for all of us and all of humanity. So
right.
I thought that was really great that you brought that up, because that's comes up many times when people have contacts, that it actually shows their own shadow.
Right. I also have to say about Whitley, what makes his work so valuable, he's one of the more lucid people, contactees, because he's been face to face with these beings, I think more present and consciously because of his maybe Gurdjieff practices of sensing, and he's able to deal with that frequency. So I really look up to Whitley as someone who is a practice contactee. And this is sort of what we have to come to as a civilization, is consciously raising our frequency. That's a difficult thing for people to understand if they haven't been in around the spiritual community. It's like, I'm sure the military are not talking about raising their frequencies, which is also why when they go to Skinwalker looking for evidence or weapons or how to monetize or militarize the phenomena, they are getting hit by a lot of negative energies because they are putting out negative energies. And by the other end, if you go there with a positive, loving attitude, the opposite will happen. So this phenomena is, in a really big general way for the population, amplifying our inner attitudes. That's what's so interesting. I'm glad you brought both of you brought that up, because that's what's so interesting about this time. It's a reflection. Isn't that interesting, Zenka, that we're challenged in our own development here?
Yeah, I mean, that's this leap that we get to take right now. And it's a leap where we're all going to be comparing notes. So we want to compare notes as quickly as possible. So it's just like writing like the scientific community, they write a research paper, then someone reads the research paper, then someone tries it themselves, and then someone writes the next research paper and the next research. It's just like, so it's this is a time where we're totally connected around the world. We can compare and share what's happening with us. We can test stuff out. And I think that we, like, maybe not all aliens are good. I don't know, but the majority, I believe, are, just like humanity. I believe that the majority of humanity is good. And maybe when we, as in terms of loving, meaning that. So I think that, yeah, I think we're really stepping into, like Steve Bassett said, he's like, we literally so excited for all the years to come, because we are in an unprecedented situation. Like, this is a before and after that will reverse itself. Like,
Right.
this is just like it will dominate every thought and conversation that we have for the next 5 years, because everything changes. As Adam said, he's like, oh yeah, well, we got to do commerce with them, and like, what are they going to buy? You know what I mean? Like, yeah, it's going to take a little bit of time, but you can just imagine how adding a new ingredient into our world creates now infinite possibilities of so much, of everything in every direction. Interspecies stuff, you know what I mean? Like, all of it, like, it's just so exciting.
Yeah, you're right. Once we open that door publicly, and for us, the door is open, where there's no going back saying, nah. I mean, even when I, though, saw a craft with night vision glasses when we were out in Sedona for that big gathering, and I saw a triangle in the sky, Jen, it was like this with the triangle pointing up. And while I was looking through the night vision glasses, it flipped. It flipped. It's like,
Wow.
This is real. I mean, I knew it was real, but it's like, that just blew me away. It's like,
Yeah.
how do they know? That's probably hundreds of miles away, and it's, or maybe it didn't know, but I saw that. It's like,
Guys, I'm sorry to interrupt.
I'm
Do we
still
really
integrated in that.
quickly
What's that, Coffee? What's that?
do we really quickly want to share like our favorite ET contact experiences real
Oh,
quick?
sure. Well, Jen has
Yeah, but I want to say something really quick though about the craft. So this was one thing that we did not hear from today. So there are theories that say that the triangle crafts are reverse engineered or collaboration devices that are made in cooperation with humans and ETs. So they were not willing to admit that, and I think it was actually good, because otherwise people might not, like, one of the things, Alan, you said that was so important, is like, they definitely specified that this is of alien nature, could not be made anywhere on Earth. And then he goes, oh, the time that I saw this craft was before we started programs, you know what I mean? So he kind of alluded to the fact that we were building some stuff that people might not have seen, but it was interesting because that's another layer of like, oh, wow, that might happen. It's like, oh yeah, because some people in Sedona, Michael of Sedona says, he's like, oh yeah, the 400 crafts here are all, us, you know what I mean? Built with
I totally do not agree with that. That is
not all of them.
That is disinformation put out by intel to take us away from the truth. I say maybe there's a few. The stuff I saw was not man-made, and the other craft I've seen. So we can't let the psyops, the reverse intelligence people, plant these ideas and think, oh yeah, even Greer goes off on those levels, abductions are all, military. That is pure nonsense. And so we can't be dissuaded by those people who have an opinion that, yeah, it's a whole thing, is a hoax, because that takes us away from the truth. And Jen has had some pretty major experiences, Zenka and Coffee, that if she wants to share some of that to this audience. Yeah.
And just before that, I want to tag on to what you guys are saying. So I know, Alan, I know you're a fan of Elizabeth April. I'm sure you guys are aware of her. She put out a video recently about disclosure that I really appreciated. It was channeled information. And she said that these stages of disclosure, that it's mostly happening on the personal level. And so there's people, say, starseeds, light workers, people who are spiritually, like you said, with their frequency raised or are working on it. There's an increase in sightings for them. The next stage is there's an increase in these false sightings, holograms or our own craft. But the third stage is, regardless of the origin of these craft, this leads to the public becoming acclimated to it. So even though there's like this divisiveness and none of us will really know the origin of any craft we see, and we can assume, we can use our intuition, at the end of the day, it's still leading to the general consensus, getting comfortable with the idea. And that's what we need. So I think, you know, and especially too with like the MyLab stuff, I have mixed feelings about it. I do believe that there is some simulated abductions, but I don't know if that's happening to the general public. In my opinion, it's happening within the military and they're doing it to their own people. That's my belief on it. But
I agree with you. I don't believe MyLab. It's really distortion. It really takes us away from the fact that there have been actual ET, whatever you want, interdimensional abductions of real people that have traumatized them. The MyLab stuff, I think, is more disinfo for the most part, you know. But do you want to just relay a little bit of your spectacular experiences to our audience?
so it is a physical UFO contact. I've never had really kind of your traditional abduction scenario, but it was. So in 1993, I was 5 years old and I was with my whole family. This happened in Jersey City, New Jersey. And it was me and 4 siblings and step siblings and everyone. And basically, right before this had happened, my stepmom had opened the door and told us to come in. And then we said like, oh no, let us wait. And she's like, okay, closes the door and locked us out the house, which later we found out that the door was locked. Then shortly after that, my older sisters, who I was one of the younger ones, but the older ones were around age 12 to 14, most of the people there. And they saw a white dove fly over them at 11 o'clock at night in Jersey City, where there is not really much wildlife. And so they see this white dove fly over them. And then me and my brother run over and we're like, oh, we're going to wait for the bird to come back. Shortly after that, pretty much what felt like instantly, we hear this loud, what sounds like when you swing a bat, like that like breaking air whistle wish sound, but it was extremely, extremely loud, like so loud. And when we looked up, it was what felt like 1 second broken into many parts, because it was the sound, a dot in the sky, and instantly at the same moment that was a dot in the sky, then there was a craft hovering over the shed of my it was at my dad's house, at their neighbor's yard. So it was basically like looking like it was using maybe the shed, and it was like kind of like bouncing above it. And so we all really don't react that quickly. And also this was 1 second what it felt like. And then the next thing I remember from seeing this craft, well, the first thing that I remember, even though I was young, I remember thinking it didn't look as high tech as I thought. Like I thought it would be like more like futuristic, because I had seen stuff on TV. X-Files was already on TV by that point. So it didn't look as like advanced as like what was on TV. And then the dog is barking at it. And I just remember the last thing is like the light casting a really long shadow of the dog. Like I looked at the dog and it was like this long shadow. And then the next part that I remember is all of us standing in a line. So we were sitting when this happened. Within the same second, we're standing in a line, and it seemed almost like we all unfroze at the same time and just start screaming, flailing around, running back to the house hysterically. And then basically, you know, for over 25 years, I believed that I ran away from this craft and got away from it. When a few years ago, I went under hypnosis, and the information that I got was that I did go on the craft, but that it's not time for me to know yet what happened. And so now, you know, I think after everything that has now happened and all of this stuff, I do feel like it's getting closer to the time that I'm going to be able to know. So I am actually booking something with Yvonne Smith to retrieve some of those memories, because I had initially done QHHT, and So now I'm going to try Yvonne Smith's method in September and see if I can get any more information about what actually happened there.
How exciting. Wow. Oh my gosh,
Right.
that's really cool.
That sounds like the Debbie Jordan experience. Do you know her experience?
Not familiar with it. I'm going to write that down.
It's a Bud Hopkins book, Intruders, where he very similar, where she's in a yard and there's a craft and she goes in. Debbie Jordan actually should interview her. Jerry Jordan Cabell, I think her whole name is, and it's part of, I think, the Intruder book. So, no, thanks, Jen. And since then, Zenka, Coffee, Jen has been pulled down the rabbit hole, like all of us. It's nonstop obsession, sort of, right? Can I say that about what's going on? And so, once you get pulled into this sphere, it's sort of like you think maybe there's an end to it. It's like, oh, I'll just dip my toe in. No, it's like it's like full body diving into the deep end, where this is probably the most exciting thing any of us can ever be involved in. So I want to thank you, Jen, for joining us. And of course, Coffee, for your steadfastness, and Zenka, I know you're in the middle of a conference there. So I'm really excited that we're able to explore this together, because we have to do this together. It's no longer an isolated thing. It's no longer, I can't share my experience because people will laugh at me. No, we need, if you've seen something, say something. If you've had an experience, share it. It is so important to start to activate the consciousness of those around us with possibility. Of course, I've been laughed at most of my life, but what are you going to do? I'm over. I mean, it's okay. I'm used to it, and it's not going to stop me from saying what I think is true and what I think happened to me in my abduction. If you read my book, Making Contact, I talk about it in there. Any final words from you, Zenka? Unmute. Yes.
Yeah, I just want to thank everyone for tuning in today. And thanks to Coffee and Jen and Alan and the Hurtaks and Ron. Yeah, this is just, really exciting, and glad you guys could join us. Stay tuned for more updates that we're going to be having for you guys.
Right.
Stay
And
curious.
Coffee from you. Yeah, go ahead, Coffee.
Yeah, I mean, I won't take too long. I did want to share just a little bit of what happened with my experience, which was really cool. But we went to a CE5. For anyone who's unfamiliar, it's just like a contact gathering where you kind of summon the ships to you. I had a couple beings that I couldn't perceive with my eyes that were standing behind me. I felt their body heat. I was actually able to smell them, which was super, super strange, but they have like kind of a floral scent leaning towards rose, and then also like ozone kind of combined, but it's still like so unearthly. And then I had a point where I was sitting in my chair and they put their hands on my shoulders. I actually felt them do this, and my whole body like lit up, like every nerve ending, every cell, it felt like a light switch was getting turned on. And the channeler that was with us explained to me that I was getting like a extra dimensional upgrade, and it was just absolutely crazy. So yeah, that was really cool, and I was really happy to have that experience. But yeah.
Yeah, that was an incredible night where we had massive contact on the radios. We had massive sightings. I mean, this was what happens when you get, I think there was 42 people there together at once. And it was absolutely incredible. It was run by Cesar, Maryland. And it was just, it's how we do this. It's how we go into this next phase. And, I think a lot of us here identify as starseeds. So it's like we see the ETs, but we are ETs, so it's sort of this interesting situation that we're in, right? And this is this grand puzzle piece that we're all bringing puzzle pieces together to understand what this actually is and how this works. And it's really fun. And those of us who've been in the community know that that it can be a really loving, really amazing experience, really elevating experience, and it can turn on your abilities. So clairsentience, your clairgustance, your claircognizance, your synchronicities, like things begin to, as you raise up to experience this, and as they contact you, because they're very high frequency. So you're getting, it's just like doing Reiki, where you're passing through that high energy. Making contact gives you a lot of high frequency. And I've experienced it. And it's caused a lot of positive events to happen. Like, your positive scenario version of yourself becomes more prominent. So it's really fun. And we're excited to do it with all you guys. So,
well, I think you should invite Jen to Contact 200, and
yes,
because it's going to
Jen.
be a real
We'd love to have you.
fantastic. And I do want to say that could have been brought out in the hearings, but maybe we're not ready for it. That contact sightings around the world have multiplied 100-fold. People are having dream experience. When I talked to a Chinese UFO researcher, she said all over China, people are having dreams about contact. And so this is a phenomenon that is about the people. Yes, the governments are sort of in charge of reality, but it's up to us to really get this conversation out to the public and say, did you see those hearings? There's no doubt. And you tell people that, have scoffed at this. I mean, in the Terror in the Sky movie, they say, this is the biggest I told you so moment in history. So
I loved it. He said, let's uncover the cover up. You know what I mean? And it was like, yes, good soundbite. And yeah.
No, I just think if Grush just overrode his NDA and said, look, I'm here in front of the audience of the world, in front of the American people, in front of all the people you take your NDA to protect, and I'm just going for it. You think they're going to arrest him on the spot? You think they're going to court? No, that is truth emerging as a revolutionary act. It takes a lot of someone with guts to actually do that, but maybe, because people are so afraid. And I think they probably have good cause. If he's been threatened, I mean, that was another really strange, interesting part. People have been threatened, maybe killed. This is bigger than just like, oh, we've lied, Zenka. This is like, in Chinese medicine, they say the bigger the front, the bigger the back. The more that denial, there's something so nefarious and insidious, or that
and
weird.
And we've killed people over oil money, like to the thousands. We've killed people with cigarettes over the thousands. We've killed people. Like it's not. We're growing up as a world, but yeah, you're right. And this is but what happens to Grush is important. So if he goes too fast, then all the other witnesses who are like right there waiting are going to be like, I don't want my wife to be threatened, like, or whatever. Right. So it's like, let's just calm down. Let's be excited for what we have. And then let's, encourage the safety of these people coming forward, because it takes a lot of guts to put
your
right.
career. I'm just a radical pushing for truth.
I know, and I love you for it.
Go for it. And I understand where you're coming from. He is intelligence form, and so maybe it's all unfolding at the right speed, at the right pace. This is sort of what Chris Mellon predicted in that discussion with Chris Como. It's like, it's a process. So we've seen, I think, a huge leap in the process. As I think Steve Bassett or Grant Cameron says, the ball was moved down the field. If they don't move the goalpost, we're getting closer to the finish line there. So let's just see the upshot. Let's see the upshot. I'm curious, in media, New York Times, mainstream Washington Post, let's just see where we go. Will they ignore it, or will they say, oh my God, finally, a huge step?
They're going to want to hit it. If they don't hit it, we're going to hit it. We're going to be the headlines. Us, and on TikTok, we're in communication with the world. Like, everybody now is so connected nowadays. They kind of barely even trust the news anymore. I feel like most of the people I know actually get their news from TikTok, and sometimes it'll be just like a crazy fish, giving your news or something. But yeah.
Right. That's why Jen is so important. You have how many followers on TikTok now, Jen?
I have almost 600,000.
Wow.
And we have And so I'm looking, so like that.
Oh. Shit. Did I lose you guys?
In Google. Down the numbers right now for
Mm-hmm. What's the number? I lost you there, Zenka.
a little bit of push. How many more are
First call.
specific? Oh, we lost Alan. Oh, whoops. Yeah, so I'll write down some data for some specific things and then check back on the YouTubes and our social, and we'll let you know what happened in the next couple of days. So we'll see if this really did make a big push.
All right. Well, thank you all again. This is
I just want to make a
go
couple-
ahead.
Oh, wait,
Jen.
Jen had something real quick. Yeah.
before
Go
we
ahead,
go.
Jen.
First, I want to validate Coffee, your experience. In my research, I've heard multiple people talk about some type of plant matter, some type of smell in contact. So that, even though you described it as like rose and ozone, I've heard different types of like plant matter described. So I want to validate that. And then also what you said, Alan, about kind of throwing out the NDA. You know, Edward Snowden did that. He really did put the truth out, and he still is seeking asylum. So as much as the truth is, you know, above all, they still will hold those people accountable to the highest part of the law. So I really appreciate what Zenka said, is that he's also laying the foundation for other people to come forward. So he needs to be safe, not only for himself, but he needs to be safe so that other people don't, you know, Snowden being held accountable the way he was scared a lot of people from coming forward. So
I know, but what about Grush going and like at this hearing saying, and it's a hypothetical, I'm going to let go of my NDA. I'm going to tell you exactly who's holding back the truth. I'm going to tell you where the bodies are. I'm going to tell you whether you think he's going to, that would cause a huge thing publicly if he was censored after coming back. So it's that balance. Let's go for the truth. I'm not saying it takes a lot of guts to do that, but let's, you know, I think that would be bigger than Snowden. No one even knew what Snowden was.
But you also kind of have to remember what happened also with the Area 51. We still have a lot of really crazy people like out here. They literally tried to like storm Area 51. There was like millions of people.
That's different going in front of Congress and the public. There are probably, you know, 100,000 or more watching saying, I don't know. I'm just curious what that would have caused around the world if he went forward and then was like court-martialed for the truth. It's like,
Yeah.
you have to remember that
One of the interesting things, you guys, that just happened is that there a mini disclosure happens. So when he said, you know, hey, I can provide the witnesses, a list of witnesses, and hey, I can disclose this publicly. So there has been a much bigger disclosure within Congress of the people that do have access, that haven't had access, that are going to want more data. So this is really cool. Sorry, Jen, go ahead.
Go ahead. What were you saying, Jen?
And we do have to remember that these are military people. They've taken an oath to
Right.
serve the country. Their oath is to upholding the safety of the country. So in their mind, when they asked if this is a national security issue, all three of those men said yes. And I don't think that's necessarily because of the aliens. It's because if some of this information, locations and stuff is disclosed, actually our foreign countries could get access to information. So I think that part of it is because the oath that they have taken to protect the country. It's not only about the ETs. I think that they're even more concerned about other countries getting this information. So that's what my opinion on it.
No, I agree with that, but let's stop creating borders. I mean,
Yes.
I think the Russians probably have some reverse engineering craft. We do. Let's share there's my idealistic utopian approach. Let's share the information, roll out the bodies in front of the public and the craft, tell everyone, not just the US citizens, what we know, what we don't know, and let's tackle this phenomena as a collective race of humans trying to grow up and be part of a cosmic reality. That's my idyllic approach.
Yeah, thank you, Alan. That's so
Yes.
cool.
Yes, yes. Why can't that happen? So I'm going to push for that one. So thank you, Jen, for your time. I know it's taken all morning, and
Yeah, thanks, Jen.
Jen's been up
Thank you,
since
guys.
6 in the morning, and now what is it now? It's like 10. That's like 4 hours here. But that shows you how dedicated we are. Thank you, Zenka. I know you're at a conference. Coffee, thanks for
I love you so much. Awesome.
You guys too. This was a pleasure. This is really cool to witness this with you guys.
yes.
Return to history. Woo!
And Ron, James, his accident, and JJ and Desiree Hurtak, and whoever else was on the call and listening. Thank you. And we will reconnect soon. Let's stay in touch, Jen. Come out to Sedona for one of our CE5s. And
Oh yeah.
I'm leading a CE5 in Sweden next week. And then I'm doing something in England. So anyone watching from Sweden.
And then Egypt.
And Egypt. Yes. Yes.
Wow.
So this is international, but I don't know if I'll do a CE5 from Egypt, but you never know. All right. Thanks, everybody. Really.
Bye,
Alan.
all the
Fun.
time. Thanks.
Yeah.